Nutrimedical report, and we're going to have some interesting programs here. And hour number 2 and 3, we'll be bringing on Dr. Bob Dennis here, possibly as early as the next segment. But I want to kind of go over some different news items. One of the ones that I reviewed this earlier this week, and I'm going to review it again. And this is regarding Senator Rand Paul. And I see an article here that's posted up by Tim Alexander, my cohort, that doesn't like Rand because he supports the state of Israel. Now, people call it, and this the top of the article says that Rand is a, quote, gigolo for the Rothschilds' Israel. What we have to understand is Israel was put back in the land in a state of unbelief, and it's like a bad cousin. They're our cousin still. And in fact, if it wasn't for this fact that Israel exists in the Middle East, we wouldn't have a drop of oil coming out, or a petrodollar, or the kind of economy we've enjoyed since the Second World War. It's primarily since the development of the petrodollar that we are the world currency standard. The world currency standard is based on oil from the Middle East, period. And Saudi Arabia and the OPEC oil countries that have actually had to exchange and buy through the dollar are the reason why the dollar is the world currency standard. Our primary export is the fact that we control money supplies and the movement of credit around the world through the petrodollar. Major attacks last year occurred because of the fight back and forth between Israel and Saudi Arabia, and the move by Obama to actually back, yes, I think we have one of our guests. Is this Karen? Or?
Hi, Dr.
Okay.
Bill, it's Campbell here. How you doing?
Good. We did connect. Okay, I had to mention something quickly about our candidacy of Senator Rand Paul, who's the only candidate that I believe will become a valid president. Everybody else is going to be a mess. And of course, it will affect people even as far away as New Zealand, where you live. The U.S. presidency is like a brontosaurus, and in the United States, that whatever happens to America can either make the world prosper or crush it. And it's very important people understand exactly who is picked as a president. It makes a real big difference to New Zealanders as well as the Aussies, people in South Africa, China, and Russia. It's not a minor thing, it's a very major thing. So let's go over some of the amazing things on anti-aging. We talked about this earlier today with people that have hepatitis, hepatitis C, and they're taking some of these very dangerous drugs. that I get a kick out of doctors that just want to use a, quote, single drug. We're going to stop your hepatitis. What they do is they try to turn off the inflammation. It by no means regenerates the actual liver organ, the actual organ. It doesn't kill off the stealth pathogen. It just tries to turn off the inflammatory reaction to the tissues from the presence of the hepatitis C virus, which I find really pretty crazy, to be honest with you. When you're using a regenerative technology like Mount Red Velvet, you're literally supplying the extracellular matrix to make the tissues go back to their fetal state. That means those cells in tissues that can be put through apoptosis or programmed cell death, programmed stem cell regeneration is all dependent on what's called a signal-to-noise ratio. In other words, can you get a signal to the tissues to tell them when to commit suicide and get rid of old damaged cells, and can you take stem cells either in situ in the tissue or from the circulating blood supply, tunnel in with the proper signaling and make them turn into a liver cell, brain cell, peripheral nerve, Schwann cell, etc. And Mountain Red Velvet does it. In fact, I tell people I have a bottle literally sitting on my desk, and 4 times a day I'll open up a capsule, stick it under my tongue. Now, I can still talk and do a show with a capsule opened under my tongue of Mountain Red Velvet. That's pretty good. I guess it's like they used to practice in ancient Greece. Their diction and ability in the British Theatre in London, if you it could literally form your vowels and your consonants with so many pebbles in your mouth. You remember hearing those stories, right?
That's right, yeah.
And if you were very good at forming your vowels and consonants, you could handle quite a few pebbles. Of course, you don't want to choke on the pebbles or swallow or aspirate them, or it'd be your last performance. So the key here is that Mountain Red Velvet actually, as I say, you're not a fetus, so you need Mountain Red Velvet. You want to photocopy yourself into the future, you need Mountain Red Velvet. And I'm presenting my paper this year to the Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine in Las Vegas. So there'll usually be around 6,000 doctors there from around the world. There'll be all kinds of many thousands more health professionals and a few members of the public. One of my friends From Georgia, we met out in a cruise. Ken will be there. He is a very well-trained, if you want to call home-trained health professional. He is very much into clean water and all the other things. And Ken will be there listening too. But my theory basically is going to blow away all the theories about anti-aging that have been put out in the last 100 years. And it's based on, believe it or not, signal-to-noise ratio and engineering principles that are dealing with information technology and the ability to control epigenetics. This will trump the theories, the Hayflick theory about free radicals. It'll trump the telomere theory of long telomeres. It'll trump the theory of accumulative waste and lack of apoptosis that the Methuselah Mouse Project and Aubrey de Grey's put out. My theory is going to trump every theory that has ever been produced, and it'll give specific benchmarks of how to measure the changes in the tissue as to why it does or does not regenerate. It's important to understand the technologies are not future. They've actually been around for 2,000 plus years, since the ancient Chinese emperors, but they made a very inferior product compared to what you make. You make a product at low temperature that has no xylazine, that has all the molecules, and it doesn't have bone, so it doesn't look white. It's the actual fuzz off the deer antlers. And this fuzz, basically, it's the only mammal that can make the entire extracellular matrix, so that literally the antlers can grow in a matter of inches per day, which is pretty darn amazing. So I want people to understand this. What I'm doing here, people say, well, why are you just doing a radio show, Dr. Deagle? I said, for me to get the message out to a large number of people around the world, I'm doing a radio show. And people say, well, how do you know all this stuff? Well, I used to hide my skill sets and my abilities. I don't hide it anymore. Even in the last year or so, I've decided to take off all the veils and say, look, I really do have skills that you will not find in any other doctor or physician on earth, period. And people say, well, that's impossible. That sounds very ridiculous. But I've been doing research on this for more than a third of a century on epigenetics. I developed actually a theory called phonon-maser cytogenetics, built 12 morphogenic field machines, and I have U.S. patents going back to 1986. And I presented my theories to a panel of biophysicists, and I'm now in the process of coordinating research work with Russian and Chinese scientists on the latest 8D NLRS, which is a nonlinear system for analyzing the epigenetic scalar signaling, regulates genetics of all living things. My theory, which, by the way, I didn't want to publish because I knew it would be weaponized, and thank God I didn't publish it, because years later I found out that the government were using a form of scalar weaponry in Gulf One that would produce apoptosis. I show enough of the theory in the show now to make you understand that I know what I'm talking about. So when I tell you how Mountain Red Velvet, how important it is, this is one of the most important things besides our Nutridyne that I take every day, and our Vitamin Mineral Max. This is so important because what happens is, whether you're trying to regenerate your heart muscle because you've got damage from hypertension, or you're getting mitochondrial dysfunction, which, by the way, is the basis for all heart disease. All heart disease is mitochondrial dysfunction. It's related to hypothyroidism. All aging is a crosstalk between the mitochondria and the cells and tissues because the extracellular matrix is not there. So even if there were stem cells in the tissue or the blood, they can't know what to do because there's no signaling. Their signal-to-noise ratio is disrupted. When you get Mountain Red Velvet, I call it the toner for a better you. It's like, let's think of this, your body is a photocopy machine to photocopy you into the future. Mountain Red Velvet is the toner. How's that?
Absolutely, and I couldn't agree more, Dr. Bill. And I think it's interesting, and you said that just at the beginning of this segment, this is, although it's new, this is nothing new. This is a product that is steeped in 2,000 years of history and 2,000 years of evidence that if there's one product you can take for well-being, then it's Mountain Red Deer Velvet. It's simply the best.
Stay right there, don't go away. We started late, but we have more time. And unfortunately, our friend Dave Mitchell couldn't make it today, but we'll continue for a while, and then we'll bring on Dr. Bob Dennis and talk about micropulse, which fits in with this and the NASA research on magnetically coupled electromagnetic signaling.
Gold. It's like nothing else on Earth, from the Romans through the Renaissance.
And welcome back, and we have Campbell Kilgore. We're talking about one of my favorite animals, the Scottish red deer, which, by the way, loves New Zealand. I guess it's their patient. It's like the Sandals Resort for red deer from Scotland, isn't it?
Well, it's interesting, and again, my father-in-law, I should say, was He was involved in some of the very, very early work with bringing New Zealand red deer, not into New Zealand, but basically starting to farm them. So, this is going way back into history. But what has happened over the last 30, 40 years, Dr. Bill, is that you're dead right, that they brought here a species of red deer that is the Scottish red deer. Endemic to Scotland, grows, lives there wild, was brought here by the early settlers, again grew wild, but recognized about 30 or 40 years ago that these deer have a particular property in terms of that every year they grow this velvet antler. And there was a lot of, I think, due to our proximity to a lot of the traditional medicinal markets, so looking at places like China and Korea, where they have an enormously long history of using this product as a therapeutic, that they recognized that these animals would be very valuable, learned how to farm them, and I think I always use that word with a degree of caution, because what we're not doing here is high-density farming. And I think if people go onto our website, what you'll see here is farms that are essentially 1 or 2 mountains. We're talking here about 10,000 acre ranches, I guess you'd call them in North America, where these animals roam wild. So they are essentially wild animals. They are not they're not tethered in any particular way. And then once a year, what we do is we bring all the stags down, and as we say, Dr. Bill, we give them a bit of a haircut. We harvest the velvet. The animal is not harmed in any way, and indeed, these boys are actually quite happy to get this heavy weight off the top of their heads. We have developed a very special way of doing that means we do not need to use a drug called xylazine. That's important because there's a lot of deer velvet out there that actually has this potentially harmful residue in it. And we just decided when we started the company, we were not going to do that. We were going to produce a far safer type of product that really we can say hand on heart that there is no material from mountain red that has ever had xylazine in it, and we test our batches to ensure that. So what that means is when you're buying mountain red, you're getting the best quality deer velvet in the world. We only use the highest quality, and that's important because there's a direct correlation between the quality of the velvet, and all of this velvet is graded, and the likely response it will have in your body. We get probably now on a weekly basis, we get inquiries from people by email or phone call saying, look, I've gone and I've bought someone else's velvet, I've opened up the bottle, I've looked in the capsule, and it's like a strange white color, it's like a gray white. Now what that is, I would guess, is bone. And bone is not antler, and it's certainly not velvet. So it's very important that when people are sourcing a velvet product, they're getting one that has been cut early and harvested early. And one of the ways you can tell that is by its color. If it is a rich terracotta color, a brown color, even a red color, that means it's very, very good quality. If you're going into these rather strange colors, then chances are what has happened is that velvet has been allowed to move on to the next stage in terms of it ossifies, and it turns from velvet into antler. And antler is bone, and bone is essentially no good. It's not a source of anything. The velvet is an incredible source of these 296 bioactive molecules, some of them very fragile. We're talking here about peptides, we're talking about growth hormones. That is why we cut very differently and we harvest very differently from everyone else, because we want to give people the highest quality product. We're not in the business of selling bone, Dr. Bill.
Right. Let me go over some of the different molecule classes without being too technical. And I can get super technical. I can go what I call hyperdrive, supercomputer level. But I'm just going to go into moderate level here.
Okay.
In a mountain red velvet, there's a molecule called proteolin. Have you ever heard of that molecule before?
Yes, I have.
Proteolin is actually present in every single notochord-based animal life form on the planet, right from shrimp to human beings to deer, whatever. And proteolin is a very ancient molecule. It's necessary for actually stimulating growth in any species in the initial blastula phase, or when the notochord and the neural plate is laid down to actually form a spinal cord and the organism, the limbs, buds start to develop and everything. In the if you're actually able to visualize, and just use I call it your Imagineering your brain, Imagineering scope. If you could look at the presence of proteolin at the bleeding edge of the growth plate for the antler, you'd see super high concentrations of proteolin. Similarly, if you could see the proteolin concentration inside a fetus, every organ and tissue, from skin, eyes, brain, everything, is growing not only at an enormous rate, you're also creating an enormous rate of apoptosis as well as growth, which is tissue remodeling. So tissue remodeling, which is apoptosis to get rid of older damaged cells or cells that are irrelevant to the current structure or the new evolving structure, what the antler does is it has very high concentrations. Now, the only persisting organs in an adult human being that has proteolin is the hypothalamus and the sexual organs. That's it. And an area called the super small bowel called the jejunum that has argentophin cells that produce a small amount of proteolin, that's TRH, that regulates the peripheral conversion of T4 to T3 and regulates your mitochondrial function. Your mitochondrial function and the crosstalk between your mitochondria and your cellular DNA regulates the process of aging because it regulates gene activation and silencing. So a good part of aging is actually not just the epigenetics of the fact that there are lots of proteolin. Proteolin is present in mountain red velvet. So if you're wanting to take TRH, you don't need to take a pharmaceutical grade TRH. You want all the other growth factors, including proteolin, present. There's 6 hormones present, including proteolin. There's 8 different classes of molecules, many of them what's called transmembrane, scalar transducers. So what they do is they attach to cell membranes and they actually pick up infrared signals from the surrounding tissue, and they send signals to the microtubules and the messenger RNA and the other mechanisms that regulate the transcription of proteins to create enzymes and structural proteins in the cell. Matrix metalloproteinase molecules, all kinds of lignins, all kinds of different classes of molecules. Some of them are very fragile, which is why we're moving to a DR cap, which I tell people put it under your tongue, or when we get the DR cap, it'll go to a pH of 2 to the terminal small bowel, where your body converts fat-soluble or fragile molecules to what's called a micelle. And it goes through the pepsin in your stomach and the digestive enzymes in your ampulla levator with the succus entericus coming out of your pancreas, all those fragile molecules would get destroyed, or a lot of them. And that's why I recommend putting it under your tongue. When we move to a DR cap, it's a totally different story. So I've noticed myself when I use the capsule under the tongue, my results are dramatically faster and more dramatic than if I just use the capsules by mouth.
That's it.
Stay right there. We'll be back in just a minute with, and we're going to join also, I think, coming up here soon, Dr. Bob Dennis from NASA and his research on the micropulse. All ties together. And we're going live, and we have Chris Jackson from VibraSlim. And by the way, VibraSlim is the machine to get if you want to exercise. There's lots of machines, a force plate and others, that are $5,000 to $7,000, $8,000, $10,000 that really aren't not only better, but they're not modular, and if they break down, you're in big trouble trying to get it repaired. The VibraSlim is so sturdy and so well designed and so modular, and the price is amazing, $1,299, and you get free shipping in the U.S. You just can't beat it, can you?
No, you can't. And, it's a whole machine that's built for commercial quality. So that's why, you don't have to worry about it.
Because there's no middleman and you're not selling through some other supplier, your machines, as the way that, and technically and engineeringly they're built, would be, and this is a fact out there if you want to cross-check, because we had Ed Brown on with his series of companies bringing in all kinds of different machines that are similar, would be $3,000 to $5,000. And they're non-modular, so if you have a breakdown of a part because you have a 3-year warranty, you just send out the different module and say, yeah, it's broken, we'll send out a different module to replace it, and you snap it on. So the fact it's modular and the fact you have a 3-year warranty and the shipping cost in the U.S. is covered, and you ship worldwide too. I tell people this is the machine to get. And vibrational exercise, the average person must, I mean, this is not a maybe, but must get 10 minutes, I call vitamin G, or gravity. Now, why gravity? Well, the reason is gravity stimulates your extracellular space to pump your lymphatics. It stimulates your growth hormone to release hormones in your body for growth and regeneration. It stimulates the change in electrical potential across your bones by compressing the piezoelectric crystals of your bones so your bones regenerate. It increases the Golgi tendon apparatus and all the connective tissues of your body to stimulate production of new collagen, elastin, and hyaluronic acid polymer in your joints. So literally it does so many things, it's hard to list. It changes your set point in your brain to change so your body will defend a lower weight. It stimulates the burning off of fat in your brown fat tissues. It raises the core body temperature and your metabolic rate. It does so many things, it's insane. I call it vitamin G for gravity. And if you could comparatively get a force plate for $6,000 or $7,000, but why, when you can get a VibraSlim for $12.99 and free shipping and modular parts with a 3-year warranty? Tell us about the design about this device and why it's so superior to the competitors at a half to a third the price.
Well, all the competitors, first of all, they're all made in China, and probably about 85% of those machines, if something breaks on them, trying to get that machine fixed is basically impossible. Like you said, they'll make you pack the whole thing up and send it back if they'll even repair it for you. VibraSlim have been around for 8 years now. We have the best service in the industry. We have a lifetime motor warranty. You just never have to. You buy a VibraSlim, you never worry about it again. So, and we've got, our machines have been used all over the world. We have Olympic athletes on the U.S. teams using them. We've got doctors and chiropractors using them. We've got therapists using them. We've got thousands and thousands of home users using them, from all ages, from, people in their 20s right up to people in their 90s. It's really something that the whole family can use to stay fit. Women really love it because if you want to get your body toned, get your legs toned, get rid of cellulite, and trim body fat, VibraSlim is the most effective way to do it, period.
Yeah, and I call it microchiropractic too. What I do is a few tricks that I've learned, and I tell people to do this. Go to Amazon and get one of these bars you put in the ceiling, an athletic, body balancing bar that the gymnasts use, and get some body elastic bands, because there are already bands that will come with the VibraSlim, and attach those and use them through the ceiling. And I can actually I call it vibrational calisthenics on there. So I'm pulling and twisting, and I'm hearing vertebrae and rib heads pop in and out. I'm feeling my joints move. It's non-traumatic, but it literally puts all your vertebrae, your neck, your thoracic and lumbar spine back, your joints in your ankles, knees, everything. And when you're doing squats and so on it, imagine you're doing a squat with 50 hertz, 50 vibrations per second, or 35. The effect on your body is amazing. Non-traumatic, stimulatory, and it improves what's called proprioception or position sense, which means your ability to know how to adjust the force vectors around a joint prevents injuries. So people that use VibraSlim, if they're walking on an irregular surface like golf, or they're running, or they're doing a sport, they're far less likely to tear a rotator cuff, far less likely to tear an ACL, far less likely to fall. In fact, the 10 minutes 3 times in a month with an 80-year-old that has a tendency to fall cuts your falls by 80 to 85%. That's pretty amazing. It's almost like medical legally, if there's lawyers listening, you'd say, all the senior homes that I'm contracted with, they have to have one of these, or I'm going to send a bulletin out to them. If you don't do this, you expect that this is how much money it's going to cost you. In falls, in the senior home, which is one of the number one causes for big lawsuits against senior homes or extended care facilities, is falls. If you're talking about high school or college, the biggest problem is what's called micro-injuries becoming macro-injuries, and what happens is it's all due to a loss of what's called proprioception. I've had experts here on the program even talking about this in the past. We use a Bosu ball, which is one of these half balls, to balance on. When you're doing what we call proprioceptive training exercises, you dramatically reduce injury, but the best proprioceptive balance platform to work on, and by the way, the platform is pretty big too. You can do sit-ups on this platform, you can do balancing exercises, you can do squats, you can do all kinds of exercises. It's going to send signals back to your brain to make sure your brain is sending the proper proprioceptive control signal around the joint or tissues. Every patient that has chronic pain along a dermatome or nerve distribution is basically an imbalance between proprioception or position sense, muscle firing pattern, and the autonomic nervous system. So basically pain is a neurological syndrome of disinformation rather than a lack of narcotics in the neural axis, like dynorphin and beta endorphin. And this is the problem, is most doctors have no idea what pain is, therefore they just try to medicate it away with their magic script pad. Pain is not a deficiency of central nervous system opioids. It is a neurological syndrome where proprioception or position sense and muscle firing patterns are out of balance, and the body tries to brace itself by sending a pain signal to tell you not to move the body part because it's injured or, quote, broken or about to be broken, because it's got micro injuries about to become a macro injury. Teleologically, that's what happens with pain. So and when you see people with Vibrosym, and you see them starting and 6 months and a year later, the transformation is amazing. They walk better, they're slimmer, they have better sleep, they pump the lymphatics, their edema is better, blood pressure is improved, cardiac function's better. It has an interesting effect too, even on, even though it's not going to raise their heart rate a lot, it has an interesting effect on circulation, so that it has a cardiovascular training effect. Because I tell people your heart doesn't pump the blood around your body, it's your blood vessels, but vibrational exercise has an effect on all your arterial, venous, and lymphatic circulation. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's really good for circulation, and you notice it right away. And a lot of people, after the first couple of times they use it, they'll actually, their body will kind of get a tingling sensation, and that's the increase in circulation. And eventually, after a few times it doesn't happen, but it's interesting. I don't know exactly why you get the tingling sensation, but you can really feel the difference. So many people, especially as you get older, they have problems with circulation, and they really find it helps them. And joint pain is another huge one, which a lot of people that get Vibrosym and they want it for weight loss or something like that. But one of the side effects that we've heard so many times is like, oh my God, the pain I used to have in my knees is gone, or my elbows is gone. The vibration effect seems to increase lubrication in the joints and have some sort of regeneration effect, and really works very, very well for joint pain, with the same effect it has for back pain, which is why chiropractors in the last few years have been all over it.
Yeah. If you want to get a Vibrosym, go right directly to our product page. We're soon going to get a banner ad up. And call us if you want to get more information whether it's going to help your condition, whether it's osteoporosis, a spinal injury, chronic pain syndrome, ankle, knee, anti-aging, Vibrosym.
Up until now, we have been losing the
Nutrimedical report, and we have Dr. Bob Dennis. The music of the cells is scalar. It's a electromagnetically coupled scalar music. In fact, without the music of the Schumann resonance of the Earth, even the genetic expression of your chromosomes in your cells and tissues can't occur. What's really neat about the research you've discovered is that these frequencies don't have to be really powerful, but they have to be what we call elegant. They have to be coupled to the right frequencies of the cells, tissues, and organelles. And when you do this, you're able to get remarkable results of tissue response to this kind of stimuli. Dr. Bob, tell us about the micropulse. It's the latest version. The last one we had a year or so ago was the Soma Pulse. And the price now has come down $1,000. That's pretty amazing. That's, I guess, the same thing with things like iPads, iPhones, and calculators. The elegance and the power and the adjustability of the micropulse is increased from the Soma Pulse. So whether you're trying to control pain, stimulate tissue regeneration, or stimulate tissue healing, and detoxification, micropulse along with our NutriMeds, and again you need both. You can't just kind of take the electromagnetic technology without the presence of the building blocks present. But the combination's remarkable. And I tell people, this is so portable, you can have it on a sore knee and just wear it with your special cuff around the knee while you take your Collagen Max, Tendon Bender, Joint Performance, and Mountain Red Velvet. But tell us a little bit more of the story, because we've been talking about this every day. I've had a number of people either email or call me and said they're going to get a machine. They're going to get a machine the last few days. And I tell them, I said, it's so affordable now with the $30 off. It's $3.99. It was our special. In fact, you can't get a better price anywhere on the internet or anywhere than our special right now, even for the micropulse anywhere else. The $30 off. It's $3.99 for the A9A device. Tell us all about this special and why this machine is going to be so helpful to people's future health and painless existence, and whether it's back, knee, ankle pain, or just put it over your liver. If your liver needs regeneration, take your nutraceuticals, put it over your liver, over the organs that are affected, your middle ear if you have a balance or hearing problem. The stimulation to stem cell activation is 400% plus, so you can't help but get improvement if you use this with the right nutraceutical technology.
I think that's absolutely right, Bill. And let me just say a little bit about the price and the availability now. You know, the SomaPulse, which I personally believe was a fine machine, it was a fine technology that was developed 4 years ago, and we sold it, 3 and 4 years ago under the brand name SomaPulse. Was absolutely fine, but what's nice is that this technology is under continuous research and development. It's continuously being improved. And so some of the improvement is that we make it more efficient. Some of the improvement is that we make it more biologically effective. I'm constantly doing research. Every year we do 1 or 2, major studies to see what's most effective. So we make the technology as effective as possible. But one nice thing is that it's really become one button simple. There's not a lot. You don't have to go in and twiddle with the frequencies and all the other kind of crazy stuff. That's all been optimized for you. You simply turn it on and run with it and just let it go. It's all been optimized. So with that simplification, we've also been able to make it a lot better in terms of its manufacturability. So it costs a lot less. It was costing about $1,400, and now it's we can sell it through your site for $399, and it's actually a better technology. It's more reliable, and it's about 35% more powerful if you want more power. But you can actually cut the power in half what it had been before as well, because a lot of people, a lot of animals are very sensitive, and they only need a very, very slight stimulus. So I just want to say, you're getting a better product at $1,000 less price, and we stand.
You can't beat that. I mean, that's like going out to your favorite restaurant that would cost for $100 steak, and finding out that your steak's now going to cost $10, $100, $10, $15, let's say, instead of $100. It's like going out to a resort and thinking, well, my first class tickets to my fancy resort 5,000 miles away are X dollars, and you find out that it's going to cost you, 1/4 of that to get there. That's how remarkable this is.
Well, that's technology. That's the beauty of technology. And I think you can really tell the good stuff on the market from the bad stuff on the market as far as electronic technology, because real technology gets better over time, and it gets less expensive. And the stuff that just is always expensive, always costs a lot, doesn't seem to be getting any better, that's not really technology. That's just somebody turning the crank trying to, make money on it. They're obviously not working on it. And so you have to wonder what you're getting for your money. And so, I've had a bunch of people tell me that it would be a disaster if we sold it for under $1,000, that nobody would believe it. It would be a total disaster, that people would believe it was just junk. I got news for you. Our sales have never been better. They are really going because people can tell the value. And when people use it, they love it.
And the nice thing, you don't have to buy anything new. It's not like you have to go down to the pharmacy and buy more electrodes or more pads or whatever. Once you bought this device, you're good. All you need is actually use a 9-volt batteries, and I actually have 9-volt battery chargers. And if you get a 9-volt battery charger, you can also get through the link there. You're set. These batteries just keep recharging, and keep using it, and it's like for many months.
Well, I designed it for myself. I designed it what would be the best product for me to fix my back that I was telling you about, that I heard as a firefighter, in addition to being a scientist, as a volunteer firefighter. And what kind of a product would I want? And I don't want a product where I have to pay, $100 a month or $200 a month for disposables or anything like that. So we recommend you buy the best rechargeable batteries. You can get them from Amazon.com. I don't make a penny on it, but I tested every 9-volt battery that you could buy commercially in the United States, and I found the best one. And you can get it from Amazon. It's inexpensive, and it's right on our webpage. And those are the ones to use, and they'll recharge thousands of times. So it costs you just pennies to use the device. And that's the kind of product I would want. So that's the kind of product we sell. But let me comment about your point about the importance of using the right nutraceuticals, and I think this is absolutely critical, because our device is an important part of the answer. It tells cells that they are healthy and that they should not be sending out inflammatory signals. I'm not just saying this. This is something we've proven repeatedly with independent laboratory data in independent labs that are paid to do this research, but they're not paid for the outcome. They tell us it's the only electronic device that actually significantly reduces inflammation. But reduction of inflammation is only the first part of what's really important. When you do that, you have to have the right nutraceuticals with your overall program, because think of it this way: with our device, with the MicroPulse A9, what you're doing is you're potentiating, you're making your body ready to heal. Instead of being in a constant state of inflammation, now it's in a position where it's ready to heal. And in order for it to complete that process, you have to provide the right substrate material. So I think these things go hand in hand. When you have the device, you need to have the right nutraceuticals. Some of these are basic things that we know you can just buy anywhere, and some of them are these optimized ones that you talk about on your program. And I think that each individual person needs to make a decision what's best for them. But that's
I think the ones that we find best for inflammation are Cell Defense and Inflamex. If you want to rebuild connective tissues, you start off with Collagen Max, Mountain Red Velvet, Tendon Mender, which changes the tenocytes epigenetically and joint performance. If you're trying to rebuild solid organs, you need phospholipids, Nutrifos, and Neurogen. And you need the trace elements. There's a number of them: copper, zinc, with our Minerals Plus and Vitamineral Max, and all the activated vitamins. When you have those present, and you have the right amino acid concentration present, the body just says, hey, I can do this. It's like a recipe and a sous chef and the chef, and they're all ready to go.
That's right.
What it is almost like you provide the power for all the power devices, like the stove and the refrigerator and everything, for the cell then to say, hey, I now have the energy coupled electromagnetic signaling to the cells to turn on the genes, to open up the ion channels, to transport proteins and molecules across different membranes, and that's what's provided when you have the energy from the MicroPulse.
I think that's absolutely right. And one way to think about it, if you sort of had to put it in a soundbite or put it on a bumper sticker, right, you need to have the right signals and you need to have the right substance. And you need to have these two things together. You got to have the right signals.
Ooh, that's a powerful way of powerful image. Signals and substance.
You got to have the right signals. You got to have the right substance. If you have all the right signals but not the right substance, you don't have anything to build with. If you have all the right substance but not the right signals, you can't build in the first place. So
this weekend, all those people out there thinking about making a decision, do it this weekend. Go on our website, go to the hyperlink on the front page of Nutrimedical. Use the code Dr. Deagle, DRDEAGLE, save $30, get your MicroPulse, take your right nutraceuticals, get out there back on golf course, get out there running again, get exercising, get walking. Take your nutraceuticals and your energetic technology, the right signal now with MicroPulse, and get your life back.